He promised to stand by her, until one phone call shattered their newfound peace. Before we begin, this is part 2 of our ongoing story. In part 1, Ethan Hale, a billionaire heir forced into an arranged marriage, discovered that the bride behind the veil was Lily Ward, the same woman who once helped him years ago with genuine kindness. Their wedding night ended with tension, a public confrontation, and an emotional reveal about Lily's family debts. Yet despite all the chaos, Ethan chose to defend her, creating the first fragile bond between them. Now we continue exactly where that moment left off. Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let us return to our main characters. The night after the wedding reception settled into a quiet stillness. Ethan Hale's penthouse glowed softly against the New York skyline. The entire city shimmered below them like a restless ocean of light, but inside the glass-walled home everything felt strangely peaceful. It was the first time all day that Ethan and Lily had been alone without the weight of 100 eyes watching them. Ethan opened the door and stepped aside, allowing Lily to enter first. She took a careful breath as she crossed into the home. It was beautiful, elegant, and impossibly large, but her shoulders rose slightly as though she worried she might disturb the quiet that lived inside the marble walls. "Your home is beautiful," she said softly. "Thank you," Ethan replied. "I hope you will feel comfortable here." She gave a small, polite smile. "I will try." That one word lingered in the air. Try. It carried the weight of the impossible situations she had been forced into. Ethan heard it, and for a moment his usually composed exterior softened. They moved deeper into the room, both of them unsure how to exist as husband and wife without the presence of contracts, negotiations, and the expectations of powerful families pressing down on them. Lily removed her heels quietly and let out a small sigh of relief. Ethan poured a glass of water and handed it to her. She accepted it with both hands as if accepting an offering of peace. "I want to apologize again for how the reception turned out," Ethan said. "You had to deal with far more than you deserved." "You defended me," she replied. That was more than enough. Her words were simple, but they struck deeper than she knew. Ethan felt something subtly shifting, something warm, something protective. "I meant what I said," he told her. "You are my wife now. I will stand by you." The silence that followed was not uncomfortable. It was delicate, fragile, almost hopeful. Then Ethan's phone buzzed. Once. Twice. A third time. At nearly midnight, it was unusual enough to steal the quiet from the room. Lily glanced toward him. "Is everything all right?" Ethan looked down at the screen. Unknown number. He hesitated, then answered. "This is Ethan Hale." A low voice responded, distorted and unnervingly calm. "You married the wrong woman." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The voice continued. "Ask her what she is hiding." And then the line went dead. He lowered the phone, slowly staring at the darkened screen as if waiting for it to ring again. The warmth in the penthouse dimmed, instantly replaced by a tension neither of them could name. Lily stepped closer, her voice uncertain. "Ethan." "Who was it?" He swallowed. It was nothing. But his voice betrayed him, carrying the edge of something cold and unfamiliar. Lily's fingers tightened around her glass. The fragile peace that had barely begun to grow between them wavered in the air, already threatened by a shadow neither of them could see clearly. Outside, the city lights continued to flicker. Inside, the first fracture in their new life had just appeared. The silence that followed the mysterious phone call stretched across the room like a thin layer of ice. Lily stood completely still, watching Ethan with cautious eyes, as if afraid any movement might cause the fragile moment between them to crack further. Ethan set his phone on the counter, but his gaze remained fixed on it, as if the device itself carried a threat he could not yet comprehend. Lily's voice was soft, almost hesitant. "Are you sure everything is all right?" Ethan forced his expression to steady. "Yes. It was just a wrong number." But Lily was observant. She always had been. She noticed the way his jaw tightened, the way his shoulders held tension that had not been there moments ago. She noticed the subtle shift in his breathing. Something was wrong. He simply did not want her to know. She nodded, choosing not to press further. "If you say so." Ethan stepped away and loosened his shirt collar, trying to shake off the unease. He wanted to reassure her. He wanted to step back into the warmth that had been growing between them, but the voice on the phone echoed in his mind with every passing second. "You married the wrong woman. Ask her what she is hiding." He took a slow breath. "It has been a long day. You should rest. I can show you the guest room." Lily blinked. "Guest room," Ethan hesitated, feeling an unexpected pang of guilt. "Only if you prefer it. I mean, whatever makes you comfortable." She looked around the penthouse again, taking in its vastness. "I do not mind. Thank you." Ethan led her down the hall to a quiet bedroom lit by soft lamps. Lily stepped inside, her expression touched by a mixture of gratitude and sadness. She placed her hands gently on the back of a chair and glanced at him. "Thank you for being considerate," she said. "I know today was overwhelming for you too." Ethan nodded once. He wanted to say something comforting, something reassuring, but the words caught in his throat. The phone call had left a shadow over everything, and he did not yet know how to push it away. "Good night, Lily." "Good night, Ethan." He closed the door softly behind her and walked back to the living room. He stood at the window looking out at the river, trying to steady the frustration stirring inside him. The city lights shimmered like scattered stars on the water, but even that familiar calm failed to bring him peace. His phone vibrated again. This time it was not a call. It was a message. A single photo. Ethan's breath hitched when he opened it. The image showed Lily speaking to a man outside a clinic. She looked worried. The man had his hand on her shoulder. The photo was taken from a distance, grainy but clear enough to raise doubts. A second message followed. "Is this what she did not tell you?" Ethan's pulse throbbed painfully. He had no idea who the man was. He had no idea when the photo was taken. He did not even know if the image was real, but the message did exactly what it was designed to do. It planted a seed. He set the phone down, pressing his palms against the counter. He told himself to breathe, to think, to not jump to conclusions. But the timing, the voice, the photo, it was all too much, too sudden, too deliberate. He could not ignore it. Meanwhile, in the guest room, Lily sat on the edge of the bed, quietly untying the ribbons of her dress. Her hands trembled slightly, though she tried to steady them. She had noticed Ethan's shift. She had felt the wall building between them again. She had hoped that after the wedding chaos they would finally have a chance to breathe, to start again, to understand each other. But something had changed. She looked down at her hands, whispering to herself, "Please do not let this fall apart already." The sound of the apartment settling drifted through the hallways. A faint hum from the city blended with the quiet inside. Lily lay back slowly, staring at the ceiling, fighting the ache rising in her chest. She wanted to tell him the truth about her father, about the debts, about the people who had cornered her family, but she did not know where to begin. She did not want Ethan to think she had brought danger into his life. She did not want him to see her as a burden. She whispered into the darkness, "I am trying." In the living room, Ethan's phone vibrated one more time. A final message. "You cannot protect someone who lies to you." He stared at the words without blinking. Slowly a chill settled into the room. The crack between them that had opened moments after their fragile peace had begun was growing wider. The message on Ethan's phone burned into his mind long after the screen dimmed. He stood frozen in the center of the penthouse, the city lights flickering across his expression as doubt slowly crawled into the spaces he had promised to protect. The voice from the call, the photo, the final warning, it all wrapped around him like a tightening rope. He exhaled slowly, trying to steady himself, but the unease refused to loosen its grip. In the guest room, Lily barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she replayed the moment Ethan's expression had shifted. It had been so subtle, but it was enough to make her heart sink. She could sense when someone pulled away. She had lived her life reading the smallest changes in people, because survival had often depended on it. When dawn finally brushed the sky with pale gold, Lily rose quietly. She smoothed the bed sheets, folded her shawl, and opened the door just a few inches to check if Ethan was awake. The penthouse was silent. She stepped out slowly. Ethan had not slept at all. She found him in the kitchen, still in the same clothes from last night, standing with both hands braced on the counter. The sunlight cast long shadows across the floor, highlighting the fatigue darkening his eyes. For a moment, Lily hesitated in the doorway, unsure if she was welcome in this fragile silence. "Good morning," she said softly. Ethan lifted his head. Morning. His voice was low, composed, but distant. Lily felt the coldness immediately, a stark contrast to the warmth he had shown her only hours before. She stepped a little closer, tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "Did you sleep at all?" she asked gently. "A little," he lied. She nodded, though she did not believe him. "If you need anything, I can help. I can make breakfast or no." "It is fine," Ethan said quickly. "You do not need to worry about anything." The words were polite, but they carried a heavy barrier. Lily lowered her eyes, absorbing the unspoken message. She clasped her hands together to steady herself. Ethan glanced at her, seeing the softness in her posture, the quiet uncertainty. His chest tightened unexpectedly. He did not want to hurt her. He did not want to be cold, but he also could not ignore the voice, the photo, the doubt. A moment passed in strained silence. Then Ethan said, "Lily, I want to ask you something." She looked up immediately. "Of course." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Yesterday, after the reception, were you meeting someone outside a clinic?" Lily blinked, startled. She did not expect that question, not this soon. Her pulse quickened. She swallowed, trying to keep her voice steady. "Yes," she said. "It was the doctor who oversees my mother's treatments." Ethan studied her expression. She was calm, honest, not defensive. But the photo flashed in his mind again, feeding the unease. "Why did he have his hand on your shoulder?" Ethan asked. Lily's lips parted slightly in surprise. "Because I was overwhelmed. I was crying. He was trying to comfort me." Ethan exhaled through his nose. "You did not mention this." She nodded slowly. "I know. I did not want to add more stress to your day. There were already too many things happening at the reception." Her explanation was simple, human, believable. Ethan felt a flicker of guilt, but the warning still echoed in his mind. "You should tell me things like that," he said quietly. Lily lowered her gaze. "I know. I am still learning how to fit into this life. I am not used to being watched or judged." Her voice trembled slightly at the last word. Ethan noticed it. It made something inside him soften despite the storm of doubt. Before he could respond, his phone vibrated again on the counter. Ethan's jaw tightened. Lily flinched at the sound, a small, involuntary reaction she could not hide. She feared that phone, or perhaps she feared what the phone would do to him. He picked it up. Another message. Another unknown number. This time it was not a photo. It was a sentence. "You think she told you everything?" Ethan's pulse spiked, tension tightening across his shoulders. Lily saw the change in his posture and stepped forward cautiously. "Is everything all right?" Ethan locked the phone without answering. His voice was calm but tightly controlled. "It is nothing." But it was not nothing. And Lily could feel the distance growing again. She stood still, wondering how she could fix something she barely understood. Ethan looked at her, trying to separate truth from manipulation. She watched him, trying not to fear the way his eyes changed every time that phone vibrated. Two people standing only a few feet apart, yet the space between them felt like an entire ocean. Outside the windows, morning light brightened the city, but inside the penthouse, a shadow had already formed one that neither of them knew how to confront yet, and someone out there was waiting for the fracture to widen. The morning continued with a quiet heaviness neither of them dared to name. Ethan tried to move through the kitchen as if everything were normal, but every step he took carried the weight of questions he was not ready to ask out loud. Lily stood near the edge of the counter, uncertain, as if she were afraid to take up too much space. When Ethan finally reached for his briefcase, she spoke, her voice steady but soft. "Are you going to the office this early?" "Yes," he replied. "There is a meeting I need to prepare for." She nodded, though she sensed the real reason was the message he refused to explain. "I can make something for you to take. It will only take a moment." "Lily, you do not have to do that," Ethan said. The gentle tone remained, but the warmth from yesterday was gone, replaced with a distant professionalism that felt colder than silence. She swallowed the sting of it and folded her hands. "I know I do not have to. I want to help." Ethan paused. For a breath, his expression softened again. It was barely noticeable, but Lily saw it. That single flicker gave her courage to step closer. "If you are worried about something, I hope you can tell me one day." Her sincerity pulled at him in a way he did not expect. For a moment he almost told her about the calls, the messages, the photo. but the words froze on his tongue. He did not want to accuse her. He did not want to hurt her. And yet, he was not ready to trust her completely. "I will be fine," he said. "You should rest today. You have been through enough." Lily nodded slowly. "If you need anything while you are gone, please call. I will be here." Ethan picked up his keys, hesitated, then added, "Thank you, Lily." It was small, but it mattered to her. He left the penthouse with a calm expression, but the moment the door closed behind him, the calm shattered. Ethan exhaled sharply, running a hand through his hair as the elevator doors opened. He stepped inside, staring at his reflection in the mirrored walls. "You think she told you everything?" The message looped in his mind. He tightened his grip on the briefcase. He had been trained his whole life to recognize patterns, to analyze threats, to protect his family legacy. Someone was targeting him. Someone wanted him on edge, and they were using Lily to do it. But why? As the elevator descended, Ethan's phone vibrated once more. Another message. "You should have asked her about her father." He froze. The doors opened to the lobby, but Ethan did not move. His pulse thudded hard against his ribs. His father had briefly mentioned Lily's family debts, but not details. Daniel had only shared pieces of the truth. And Lily? Lily had said nothing about her father other than that he had passed away. Ethan finally walked out into the cool morning air. His driver opened the car door, but Ethan held up a hand. "I will walk." The driver nodded and stepped back. Ethan needed the air. He needed to think. Meanwhile, back in the penthouse, Lily carried her untouched glass of water to the sink. Her reflection in the metal faucet looked small and tired. She pressed a hand against her chest, trying to calm the tight ache that had been growing since last night. She whispered to herself, barely audible, "He promised to stand by me. I hope he does not regret it." As she placed the glass down, her phone vibrated on the counter. She hesitated, then picked it up. A message from an unsaved number. Just like Ethan's. Lily's breath caught. "Do you think he will still protect you when he learns the truth?" Her hands shook. She stepped back, instinctively gripping the edge of the counter to steady herself. No, not again. Not now. She locked the phone, forcing her breath to slow. She had spent years trying to protect everyone she cared about from the shadows her father left behind. She had hoped marrying Ethan would finally create distance from that past, but the past had found her anyway. By midday, Ethan stood in his office overlooking the Manhattan skyline. His assistant briefed him on the upcoming board discussions, but Ethan heard almost none of it. His mind replayed Lily's expression again and again, the way she had looked at him during breakfast, the quiet hope in her eyes, the gentle honesty in her voice. Was she hiding something, or was someone trying to make him believe she was Ethan? Dismissed his assistant and sat at his desk, rubbing his temples. He wanted clarity. He needed truth, but every path forward seemed clouded by doubt. He stared at his phone. One button press, one call. He could ask her. He could demand answers. But the memory of her trembling voice stopped him. Instead, he opened his laptop and began searching for information himself, quietly, cautiously determined to uncover whatever Lily was too afraid to say. And miles away, Lily stood alone in the penthouse, staring at her own phone, trying to gather the courage to face the truth that was closing in on both of them. Two people bound by a marriage, neither chose, both holding secrets, both hurting, both being pushed toward a collision they could no longer avoid. The hours passed slowly inside the penthouse. Lily moved through the quiet rooms, as if she were trying not to disturb the air itself. She kept glancing at her phone, half expecting another threatening message, half praying the first one had been a mistake. But the longer she waited, the more a familiar fear crept back into her chest, the same fear she had lived with during the worst days of her father's downfall. She walked to the window and pressed her fingertips to the cool glass. From the 38th floor, the city looked peaceful. People moved far below without knowing anything about the storm gathering inside Ethan Hale's home. Lily's reflection stared back at her, and she whispered, "I should have told him sooner." Meanwhile, Ethan sat alone in his office, his laptop, open papers scattered, yet none of them held his attention. He kept replaying every interaction he had ever had with Lily since the moment she lifted her veil. Each memory pulled him in a different direction. Her honesty, her gentleness, her silence, her fear. He wanted to trust her, but trust had never come easily to him, not in business, not in life. Unable to focus on the board reports in front of him, Ethan finally stood and walked toward the glass wall of his office. The city stretched out beneath him. His reflection looked tired, conflicted, and more uncertain than he would ever admit out loud. He let out a long breath, the kind that came from a place deep inside, then returned to his desk and opened a search on Lily's family. As he scrolled through old articles, headlines, and financial records, a picture began to form. Her father had indeed been involved in a failed investment project. There had been accusations of fraud, though no charges were ever filed. Most of the people involved disappeared from public attention after the collapse, but one name appeared repeatedly, a name Ethan recognized. Marcus. Ethan's pulse tightened. Marcus had been tied to that project years ago, hidden beneath shell companies and offshore accounts. But the deeper Ethan looked, the clearer it became. Marcus had not just known about Lily's family troubles, he had been involved in the very scandal that destroyed them. Ethan sat back in his chair, stunned. If Marcus was involved in that past, then someone was using the truth to twist lies in the present. Someone wanted Ethan to pull away from Lily. Someone wanted him unstable. Someone wanted control. Back at the penthouse, Lily finally gathered enough courage to pick up her phone and call Ethan. Her hands shook as the line rang once, twice, 3 times. When he answered, his voice was steady but distant. "Ethan," she said softly, "when you come home tonight, can we talk?" A pause filled the line. "Yes, we should talk." Lily closed her eyes, relief and fear mixing in her chest. "Thank you." Ethan ended the call, but he did not put the phone down immediately. He stared at the screen, her name still visible, feeling an ache he did not want to acknowledge. He had promised to stand by her. He had meant it, but promises were fragile things easily shaken by shadows and unanswered questions. He knew that when he returned home tonight they would be standing at the edge of a truth neither of them could avoid any longer, and one wrong word could break what little trust they had left. The rest of Ethan's workday unraveled in fragments. Meetings blurred together, conversations drifted past him, and even the crisp, organized structure of his schedule failed to anchor his thoughts. Every time his mind tried to focus, it drifted back to Lily's voice on the phone. Soft, careful, almost afraid. When the clock finally reached the late afternoon, Ethan closed his laptop and stood from his chair. He had made his decision. He would go home early. He would talk to her directly. He would ask the questions he had been trying to outrun all day. He stepped out of his office and nodded once to his assistant. "I will be gone for the rest of the evening. Hold all calls." "Yes, sir," she replied, noting the tension in his jaw but saying nothing more. The drive back to the penthouse felt longer than usual. Traffic crawled along the avenue, leaving Ethan alone with his thoughts. He replayed the messages, the photo, the lies he feared, the truths he hoped for, and Marcus, whose name now appeared everywhere. Ethan looked. By the time the car pulled up to the building, the sun had already dipped low, casting a dim gold haze over the city. Ethan took a deep breath, then headed inside. Upstairs, Lily had spent the last hour preparing the living room. She tidied the couch, arranged 2 glasses of water on the table, and sat with her fingers intertwined tightly in her lap. Her heart thudded unevenly as she listened for the sound of the elevator. When the front door finally opened, she rose immediately. "Ethan," she said, her voice steady but vulnerable. He stepped inside and stopped a few feet away from her. For a moment, neither spoke. They simply stood there facing each other, feeling the distance that had grown between them over the course of a single day. Lily inhaled slowly. "Thank you for coming home early. I know you have many responsibilities." Ethan nodded once. "We needed to talk." "I agree," she said softly. She clasped her hands together, gathering her courage. "I want you to ask me whatever is on your mind. I want to answer honestly." Her openness caught him off guard. He expected hesitation, defensiveness. But instead she looked at him with clear, steady eyes, even though fear trembled beneath them. Ethan moved closer. "Lily, earlier today, I received messages. They were about you." She lowered her gaze. "I thought you might have. I received one too." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "You did?" She nodded. "Someone is trying to scare me. Someone wants you to doubt me." Ethan studied her carefully. "Why would someone target you?" Lily hesitated. Her fingers tightened around each other. "Because of my father." Ethan leaned slightly forward. "Tell me." Her voice wavered. "My father trusted the wrong business partner. He signed things he did not understand, and when everything collapsed, the blame fell on him. People were angry, desperate. They came after him, after us. Even after he passed away, the debts never really disappeared. She met Ethan's gaze with a painful honesty. I never meant to hide anything from you. I was ashamed. I thought if I told you everything right away, it would make you regret marrying me. Ethan felt a jolt of guilt deep inside. Her words cracked through his doubt, exposing how deeply she had been carrying her own fear. He took a careful breath. Lily, why did you not tell me earlier? Her eyes softened, and her voice barely rose above a whisper. Because on the day of the wedding, you looked at me like I was someone you wanted to protect. I wanted to hold on to that for one moment before reality ruined it. The confession hit him harder than any message ever could. Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, and the image of the frightened woman in the clinic photo suddenly made sense. The hand on her shoulder, the tears, the exhaustion. She had been trying to survive. He stepped back slightly, struggling to process everything. Lily watched his expression, unsure if he believed her, unsure if he would walk away or stay. Before Ethan could speak, his phone buzzed sharply in his pocket. He did not want to answer it. Not now, not in front of her, but the screen lit up with another unknown number. Lily tensed. Ethan hesitated, then slowly lifted the phone. Another message appeared. You still do not see the full truth. Ethan stared at the words, his jaw tightening as a cold certainty formed in his chest. Someone was playing both of them, and they were not finished yet. Ethan stared at the message glowing on his phone, the words cutting through the fragile progress he and Lily had just started to rebuild. You still do not see the full truth. The room felt colder, heavier. Lily watched him with wide, uncertain eyes, her hands tightening together in front of her. She sensed the shift immediately, even before he lowered the phone. Another one, she asked quietly. Ethan nodded, his jaw tightening. Yes. Lily closed her eyes for a brief moment as if collecting herself. Ethan, I am telling you everything I know. I do not understand why these messages keep coming. He searched her face, trying to read between the fear and the honesty. For a moment he believed her. Then doubt crept back, soft but persistent. He exhaled slowly. There is more, Lily. I found records today. Your father was tied to an investment project, one connected to someone I know. Her breath caught. She knew exactly which project he meant. I did not want you dragged into that darkness. It nearly destroyed my family. Who was involved? Ethan pressed gently, not accusing but seeking. Lily hesitated, pain crossing her expression. There was a partner, someone powerful, someone who vanished before the scandal exploded. My father trusted him completely, and it ruined us. Ethan felt his pulse shift. He already knew where this was going, but he needed to hear it from her. Do you know his name? Ethan asked. Lily nodded slowly. Yes, his name was A. Sudden pounding on the penthouse door cut her off. Both of them jerked toward the sound. It was sharp, forceful, urgent. Lily stepped back instinctively, fear flashing across her face. Ethan moved in front of her without thinking, his body forming a shield. The knock came again. Louder. Impatient. Ethan's voice dropped, steady and protective. Stay behind me. He approached the door cautiously and checked the camera screen. The image sharpened, revealing a man in a dark suit standing in the hallway. His posture was stiff, his expression unreadable. It was Daniel. Ethan opened the door slightly. Daniel, what are you doing here this late? Daniel's voice was low, tense, and unlike his usual calm. We need to talk. Now. Ethan frowned. About what? Daniel glanced past him, noticing Lily in the background. His expression shifted with something that looked like worry. Ethan, it is about the messages. And about Marcus. Lily's breath hitched. Ethan's spine stiffened. Daniel continued, his tone urgent. You both need to hear this, because the person sending those messages is not who you think, and the truth is far more dangerous than anything either of you have said tonight. The apartment fell utterly silent, and Lily realized the conversation she had feared for years was no longer avoidable. Daniel stepped inside the penthouse, his expression tightened by urgency. Ethan closed the door behind him while Lily remained near the living room, her back straight but her hands trembling slightly. The tension in the room settled like a storm cloud ready to break. Daniel looked between them. I need both of you to hear this without interruption. What I am about to say will not be easy. Ethan nodded once. Go ahead. Daniel exhaled slowly. The messages you have been receiving, they did not come from a random source. They came from someone with access to private records, old financial documents, and internal Hale family information. Lily's eyes widened. But who would have access to that? Daniel hesitated, then said the name that made the air freeze. Marcus. Ethan's jaw clenched. Lily inhaled sharply. The room fell into a heavy silence. Daniel continued. He has been planning this for months, possibly longer. He knew about Lily's father, the failed investment, and the debts. He knew these topics would pull emotional reactions from both of you. He glanced at Ethan. He wanted you unstable and distracted. And the photos, Ethan asked tightly. The messages all orchestrated, Daniel confirmed. Marcus has been manipulating information using old records and edited images to create doubt. He wants the board to see you as compromised. If he can paint your judgment as unreliable, he can challenge you for the company. Lily felt a cold wave move through her. But why involve me? Why target my family? Daniel turned toward her. Because Marcus knew your past would be the perfect weapon. You have vulnerabilities he could exploit, and he knew Ethan would react strongly to anything involving you. Lily lowered her gaze, shame and hurt twisting inside her. I never wanted any of this to affect Ethan. I tried to leave the past behind. Daniel softened slightly. Lily, this is not your fault. Marcus chose you because he needed leverage. Ethan stepped forward. Earlier today I found records linking Marcus to the same investment that destroyed Lily's father. Daniel nodded. He was deeply involved. He worked behind the scenes using shell companies. When the project collapsed, he hid his tracks and let the blame fall on others. Lily's voice trembled. My father trusted him. Marcus promised he would help us. He lied, Daniel said. He used your father, and when things fell apart, he disappeared before the damage surfaced. A fragile stillness settled over the room. Ethan looked at Lily, truly seeing the depth of her pain. She held herself tightly, as if afraid to fall apart in front of them. His hands curled into fists as anger built in his chest, not at her but at the man who had manipulated both of them so effortlessly. Daniel's tone deepened. It gets worse. Marcus is planning to leak more information to the board tomorrow. He thinks you are off balance. He thinks Lily is isolated. And that gives him an opening. Ethan's eyes hardened. Not anymore. Daniel looked him directly in the eye. Then you need to decide right now what side you stand on. Because if you do not take control of this, Marcus will. Ethan turned toward Lily. She stood there quietly, her heart in her eyes, waiting to see whether he would pull away or step closer. The entire future of their fragile marriage hung in that single breath. Ethan held Lily's gaze, and for the first time since the wedding night, the distance between them felt breakable. The weight of everything, every message, every doubt, every silence, settled into one clear realization. Marcus had not only tried to manipulate Ethan, he had tried to destroy Lily all over again. Ethan stepped closer to her, slowly, deliberately. Lily, he said, his voice steady, I am done letting Marcus control this. I am done letting him use your past as a weapon. None of this is your fault. Lily's breath trembled as her eyes lifted to his. I was so afraid you would blame me, that you would regret marrying me once you learned everything. He shook his head, his expression softening but firm. I should have trusted you sooner. You warned me you were trying. I should have been trying with you. Her lips parted, surprise flickering through her expression. Ethan continued. You never shattered our peace. I did by letting someone else speak louder than you. His voice deepened with conviction. I promised to stand by you, and I intend to keep that promise. Lily's eyes filled with emotion she had been holding back for days. Ethan, Daniel stepped forward slightly. We do not have much time. The board meeting is tomorrow morning. Ethan nodded without looking away from Lily. Then we go in together. Not as two people trapped in a contract, but as a team. Lily blinked rapidly, trying to steady her overflowing heart. You want me there, yes, Ethan said, because the truth needs to come from both of us. Marcus used your story to break us. We will use the truth to expose him. Daniel agreed. If you present the evidence clearly, and Lily confirms the timeline, Marcus will have no ground to stand on. Ethan reached for Lily's hand. She hesitated for only a moment before placing her fingers in his. The contact startled her with its warmth. Ethan's grip tightened, protective, steady, certain. "We do this together," he said. Lily nodded, her voice barely above a whisper. "I trust you." The room softened around them. The fear that had shadowed the penthouse finally loosened, replaced not by certainty but by resolve. Ethan glanced at Daniel. "Prepare everything. Tomorrow we will end this." Daniel gave a single firm nod. "I will get it ready." When he left, the apartment fell quiet again. Ethan and Lily remained standing together, still holding hands, still breathing within the fragile space they had rebuilt. Lily stepped closer. "Thank you for believing me." Ethan shook his head gently. "Thank you for giving me a chance to." Outside, the city glowed softly against the night, but inside the penthouse something brighter stirred, trust, tentative and new but real. Ethan brushed his thumb lightly against her hand, a silent promise taking shape between them. This time there would be no contract dictating their choices, no false obligations, no forced vows, only two people choosing each other in the face of chaos. And tomorrow together they would fight for the truth.